Welcome to Money Club Mondays. It's July 11th, 2022. So today we're going to run through different ways to use the private money club. So we all know the private money club is for borrowers and lenders to basically meet and, make the deals happen. So the way that we, kind of demonstrate that is, if I have everybody on here right now, put a 1 in the chat box that has, deals available, or they're an active real estate investor and they're just looking for money to be able to do more deals. Put a 1 in the chat box if that's you. Or if you're somebody that has money and you're just looking for ways to get that money to make more money and secure it by things like, something like real estate in a first lien position, for example, then put a 2 in the chat box. And what the private money club is it's nothing more than a platform for those 1s and those 2s, those borrowers and those lenders, to be able to meet each other, to be able to do these deals, put these deals together. And, we get the question a lot, well, why don't they just go to a bank? Why don't they just get, traditional financing? And there's a number of reasons as an active real estate investor, whether you're brand new, whether you are doing 10 deals a month, or whether you've been doing it for 20 years, there's different reasons why private money can make a lot more sense than traditional bank money, even though you're paying sometimes double for it or triple even, right? So, for example, if you have a new investor, maybe they're brand new, maybe they don't have a long credit history already, or, a proven track record, anything like that. Well, if they go to the bank and try and borrow money on a rehab deal, the bank might not lend to them because they don't have, everything that the bank's going to require. Banks have specific requirements. And if you don't fit within that little window right there, they won't give you the loan. Or, what Chris ran into when he was flipping dozens of houses a month was the bank will only give you so much money. They'll only extend you so much money, to where, let's say, maybe you can do 5 deals a month, but if you want to do 10 deals a month, the bank's not going to give you enough money to get all those deals going at the same time because of debt to income ratios. And again, that little window that you have to fit in, or else they're just going to tell you no. Or another great example of this would be like with Rob Fuller, who's one of our, we kind of call like our VIP borrowers. With Rob, he has access to lots of hard money, lots of outside money and resources, and they'll give him $3, $4, $5 million. But for him, he has to take it all at one time. A lot of times he'll have to pay points on it, even if he doesn't need all the money. So being able to raise private money, we can do it through something called tranches, where we can raise $1 million, for the next 6 months, and then raise another $1 million when it's needed, and then raise another $1 million when it's needed, instead of just the 3 million all at once. And a lot of times there's no points involved, the flexibility, it's a lot easier to do. So there's a lot of reasons why private money and why real estate investors, need and want private money. And then, of course, as a lender, there's so many advantages to private money lending. So let's just kind of talk about those for a minute. So number one, think about it. I mean, those of you that are private money lenders that are on here right now in the chat box, like, what do you like about private money lending? Like, why are you doing it? And I can kind of give you some reasons that I think are very powerful. But I'd like to hear what you guys like. Why do you do private money lending? And I don't want to hear because Chris and Steven told me to, right? It's what makes sense to you as a private money lender? Like, why are you lending your money privately? So Claire said income, right? So income is a great one. We call it consistent, predictable income because, if I have $100,000 and I stick my money in a 12% loan for the next year, I know that I'm going to get $1,000 a month coming in every single month for the next 12 months. No matter what, it's not going to be 1,200. It's not going to be 800. It's not going to be 600. It's going to be $1,000 a month every single month coming in just like clockwork. So I can know exactly what it is. So I can know, hey, well, if I need to live on $5,000, well, then I'm going to need at least $500,000 to lend out to be able to generate that $5,000 a month in income. And then if I need to make a little bit more, maybe I look at, 15% investment, or if I want to be a little more conservative with it, then, maybe I look at like 8 or 10% or something like that. But I know exactly what I'm doing. So yeah, absolutely. Income is great. They're predictable, consistent income, and also passive, because passive income is one of those terms gets thrown around a lot. What is passive income? A lot of people say, buy rental properties because they provide passive income to you. Well, if you own rentals, how passive are those really? Having owned rentals, myself, and dealt with them for years, you do get those calls, even with property management companies. There's always problems. There's always challenges. What do they say? There's always termites, toilets, and tenants that you have to deal with, right? So even with something like that. So with a private money loan, especially when you get rolling with an investor that's just doing deal after deal with you, so when they send you the money back, basically they just say, hey, do you want to roll it right into the next deal? Comes back to you, goes right into the next deal. And that way you can consistently keep it going. But, to underwrite a deal takes under an hour. I mean, like I said before, if anybody's looking at lending on a deal right now, either on the Private Money Club or elsewhere, let me know and we can run through the numbers and talk about it, because it doesn't take a whole lot of time to underwrite a deal. And then, underwrite, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, underwriting the person is so very important. When Jack Petrick was on, and you guys got to meet and learn a little bit from Jack a little more, and I've learned a lot from Jack over the years. So if Jack brings me a deal and he says, hey, this is one I'm looking to get lending, or looking to get money on, I automatically, Jack is my guy, right? So then I just take a quick look at the deal and say, okay, well, this makes sense, and boom, I lend him the money. And so that can take literally 20 minutes from when he calls me, maybe 20 minutes worth of paperwork. And then I have that money coming in every month for the next 1, 2, 3 years, however long the term is. So to me, that's a lot more passive than like something like a rental property, right? All right. So Kevin said there's a difference between private money lending and hard money lending. Yeah. So Kevin, so they're basically the same thing, but the biggest difference is private money is going to be like you and me, right? So if I'm just lending money to somebody based on whatever the terms are that we come up with, it could be anything, right? So, that's private money, and we can negotiate those terms, and I can not lend to you based on no reason or every reason or whatever, right? Hard money is typically going to be a little bit more involved. So it's more of typically like a corporation, like hedge funds a lot of times back hard money lenders. So a hedge fund will have $1 billion that they want to lend out to specifically on real estate deals. And that money coming from the hedge fund is typically what's called hard money. And those usually have a little bit more criteria that they follow. So they'll say, you need a 680 credit score, or you need, a certain amount of assets, or you need a certain amount of debt. They're going to underwrite it a little bit more like a traditional bank would. Now it's going to be more flexible. It's going to be different than traditional financing, obviously, because it's hard money, but it's going to be typically they're going to have guidelines. And if you don't fit within those guidelines, usually they won't lend on it, right? So they're more strict in that way. So that's the biggest difference in like the private money and the hard money. A $500 EMD that leads to a $5,000 assignment fee is 1,000% profit on a wholesale deal. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, wholesaling is awesome. Wholesaling is a great strategy, especially if you're brand new to real estate. Because like you said, Todd, you can use very little money, $500 out as an escrow deposit and an earnest money deposit. And, you can easily make 5 to 10 grand on an assignment deal, depending on the deal. So Sonia, passive income. Tesla says, I like control. That's an excellent reason for private money lending, the control of it. I felt like a hostage in a 401k, a package fund, but what was in it? Yeah. I mean, so that was one of the biggest problems with 2008 is they were, taking these bad mortgages. So they would take 1,000 mortgages, of which they didn't separate shitty ones, good ones, things like that. And so they would take 1,000 mortgages and they would bundle them all together in these collateralized mortgage obligations. They call them these CMOs. And what ended up happening was 998 of those 1,000 mortgages that were bundled in there, 998 of them were subprime garbage. But they would look at the 2 that were in that were okay, and they kind of based the whole thing off that. And so they were taking these terrible mortgages, these terrible loans, and that was thanks to no regulation. And if you could, the old joke, if you could fog a mirror or fog a spoon, right? They would give you money, waitresses. And I think the joke in the movie was like strippers and stuff, right? Where we're buying, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 homes and getting financing for them and all that, and bundle them all up. But what the problem with all that is they created, Wall Street created these CMOs, and then they sold them off to these funds that all of your retirement accounts and 401ks and pension plans and all this stuff was, investing in these CMOs that Wall Street bundled together that were pure garbage, that had nothing to do but fail, and had no other choice but to fail. And then that's, of course, when they came in and bailed them all out and all that stuff. But you're right. I mean, you have no control. It's funny, when you see a 401k and they're like, you get to choose your investments, but you don't. You get to choose these pre-made funds for you. You can do like a conservative fund or an aggressive fund, but at the end of the day, it's a group of companies that they decide what goes in there, not you. You can't say, well, I want to buy specifically just Tesla stock or whatever, right? It's always like some kind of fund or some kind of package that you can invest in. So yeah, I mean, just being able to control the money and make your own investing decisions, no matter what, is huge. I agree completely, Tess. So Donna said, build future income. Absolutely, Jill, because everything is on one place to analyze deals in the Private Money Club. Yeah, I mean, and that's why the Private Money Club was created. I mean, so this is the Private Money Club. When you get on here, if you have money, well, first off, if you need money, it's real easy. Just click here if you need to get funds for a deal, and literally just put in the title of it, make it something, that people want to, pique their interest. Put some pictures in there, the asking price, the description, the address, the basic house information. I would highly suggest doing the perfect loan proposal. So right here, this is the first thing you'll want to do, is fill out this perfect loan proposal. Andrew did a good walkthrough video on how to do it, and then just click that. That's part 1 of it. And then part 2. Download the templates and plug and play, pretty much, or use those and use PowerPoint or something like that. But that'll be huge for those of you that are borrowing money and need money for deals. Get this perfect loan proposal done, because this is going to be the ad, but that perfect loan proposal is going to have everything inside of it that I need as a lender to decide if I'm going to lend to you. So this is going to pique my interest. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, you need 150,000, need 100,000, whatever. Okay, that fits within my range. Okay, this description sounds cool. The address is an area that I'll lend to. Okay, so this all looks good, but if I want to learn the specifics, that's what the perfect loan proposal is. And that perfect loan proposal is where we can go in and find all that information. So you definitely want to do that. And then, of course, if you have funds and you're looking to lend on a deal, click right there and see all the active deals. So these are active deals that are on there available right now. Jared just posted this last week. So $255,000, 12% interest, fix and flip. So he's paying 12% annual interest, and it's a fix and flip. So the exit strategy. He's going to buy it. He's going to rehab it. He's going to raise the value of it by putting some money into it, and then he's going to sell it for cash, and that's how he's going to cash you out. So that's important to know the exit strategy. And then he just kind of gives the basics. This property is an outstanding rehab deal with a new roof and updated kitchen and bath. This home will be a beautiful country home near Lake Watery, South Carolina. Estimated lender earnings total and cash flow are an attached PDF, detailed scope of work and attachments. So he puts all that right in there. So we can take a look at those documents, but it tells us about the house. So they have about $65,000 in estimated repairs. I'm sure he gets that right from here. Yeah, so you can see they did everything. And I know Jared. I met Jared. I was working with Jared. He's a client for the Money Multiplier. And then he came, and Jared was on Money Club Mondays a few months back. But I met Jared in person in South Carolina at a re-up event, which is actually coming up again in 2 weeks that I'll be at. I don't know if Jared will be there or not, but so Jared and his wife, they literally moved, I believe, from Pennsylvania, basically just to do real estate full time. Like, they're all in on it. And you can see from the work that he does here, he knows what he's doing, and he's young and he's a hustler and he's willing to get things done. So I love to see this rehab budget in such detail, because there's nothing worse as a lender when somebody brings me a deal and I'm like, all right, well, give me the numbers, give me the specifics. And they're like, yeah, well, we need, $220,000 to buy it, and we need about $50,000 to rehab it. And I'm like, all right, well, what's the $50,000 going to go to? And they're like, well, we took a look at it and we think it probably needs like like maybe a couple of the bathrooms redone. We're probably going to do some of the cabinets. We might do some of the flooring. It might need a new roof, but we aren't really sure yet if we're going to do that. Like they throw all these like mights or ifs or what ifs, or things like that. And when they tell me that, it gives me no confidence in them at all. I'm like, okay, well, if you haven't actually broken it down and specifically know what you're going to do, you're going to run into problems, because those of you that are on here that have done flips in the past, do they ever go as planned? Like, like when you like this budget right here is great, but I guarantee you at the end of the day, there'll be things that aren't even right on here. But that's why it's important to be so specific. So when things do go awry, you know where you can go into, like, stay on budget. Maybe we can take a little bit out of this area because we got to put more money into this area or something like that. So the more specific, like even down to the dollar, I absolutely love it. So, they're taking it all into account as well. Like a lot of people forget about some of the costs that are involved, like dumpsters. Like who would think of dumpsters? If you're new, that's something that you don't forget about, or that you forget about. And then you look at this and you're like, well, dang, man, those dumpsters cost me $1,200. Well, if you're only going to make, let's say, $10,000 on a flip, I mean, that's 10% of your profit gone just because you forgot about dumpsters. So to me as a lender, when I see this, it just lets me know that Jared and his wife are very detailed when it comes to these rehabs. So they're thinking of everything. So that makes me feel like my money's going to be protected because they know what they're doing, right? So just to go through this with you, dumpsters, $1,200, and then they have demo money. So that's must be the rate, maybe a demo company that they're going to pay or what they figure their time is worth. So $6,300 in demo work, all the roofing, like even replacing the chimney cap, the little things, they add up. All the exterior, remove yard waste, again, rental equipment, pressure washing to make it look good. So framing, exterior windows, drywall, new drywall for the bedroom panel replacement, interior paint. So 1,779 square feet. $1.50 a square feet. So that's how they come up with all those costs. Flooring and title, they're putting cabinets, vanities, countertops, plumbing, new fixtures, or a new fixture in the bathroom. So then I look through this whole thing and then I think to myself, all right, is there anything else? And then what I would do is, okay, here's the total 65,000 in rehab that they need. So amazing private lending opportunity. So again, he goes into a little bit more detail, exclusively presented. This is their company, their information. So if I didn't know Jared, maybe he's a new lender. Maybe one of the things I do is I spend $20 and do a background check on Jared. It's very easy to do background checks these days. Or maybe I just hop on the phone with Jared and just kind of interview him. Hey, Jared, tell me more about you. Tell me, hey, what if something goes wrong? Hey, what is your backup plan? Things like that. So I would, I'd really start looking at Jared because the deal looks good, So then I would, definitely look at Jared and then, decide whether or not this is a deal that I want to lend on. So they put a lot in here, which is really good to see. Time to complete the rehab, time to complete the sale. So they're expecting 6 months. So I know that if I lend my money, I'm probably going to get it back within about 6 months. So he's got loan to value on here. This is really cool. Some of the charts and graphs. Do you guys like this? So Jared, if you're on, very nicely done, my friend. Yeah, so I pulled that up just to kind of show you, one of the deals what Jill was talking about, how everything's in one place, and it's absolutely right. That's what the whole point of the Private Money Club is for, is to get all those people in one place and be able to make the magic happen. Julie said it's easy on my part. I get to choose where it goes, and I can secure it to a certain extent. Yeah, absolutely. So on that, Julie, just to expand on that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, so you go on, like we just showed. Okay, here's the deal that I want. All right, let's go ahead and hey, I want to go ahead and lend on this deal, or, whatever the case might be. So this is a small second, real fast. Let me look at this. So this is a little bit different. This is a second mortgage. Opportunity for a lender to make a 10% flat return. Negotiable. Again, everything's negotiable, guys, remember? On a $40,000 second loan for about 3 months. So here's the difference. This is what Julie was just talking about securing, okay? So this deal right here is going to be a first lien position mortgage, essentially. So when you lend the money on this deal and you lend the $255,000, your $255,000 is now secured by this property. So Jared was to just take that $255,000 and disappear, you would be able to take control of this property and you would now become the owner of it. Now, you might not want to own this thing, but you could wholesale it to somebody that does want to own it and do the rehab and sell it and make 10 grand. You could do the rehab yourself and make, 100 grand. You could rent it. I mean, there's a million things you could do with this, right? Once you have it, you can do any exit strategy. But that's what happens in a first lien position. If something goes wrong, you have the ability through a foreclosure or through contract deed or something like that, to take the property over, just like a bank does. Now, a second lien position, which they're looking on this one, a second mortgage, means that there's a first lien on this property where if they stop getting paid, or if you don't get the money, if they don't pay you the 40,000, you can't just foreclose on the property because the first lien is in charge of that. Okay. So if this guy, so as a second lien position, you'd want to kind of work something in there to have some kind of collateral or what would happen, in the terms in this of what would happen, if for some reason they didn't pay you back. And the reason they're looking for 40, it looks like they already have financing. They just need a little bit extra money for right here, labor and materials for the rehab. So it's a novation fix. There's a first lien of 340 on it. See, I don't like this either. Talking to a realtor, he says we can probably sell it for 520,000. Don't tell me what a realtor thinks you can probably sell it for. That's just bullshit. Give me comps, like pull comps and put those on here. And again, a rent zestimate, this is just garbage. So you want actual comps, what are called comparable, CMA. So here's some comps. So they did put some on here, so that's good. So I would just want a little bit more detail on these. And maybe they have it on here. I might be skipping ahead. So here's the scope of work of what they're doing. Yeah, these are pretty generalized, but they're pretty close to what they need to be. So that part's there, but I would want to see actual comps on that one. Now, maybe they have them and they can send them to us. So what I would do on this deal is I would contact, what do they need? 40,000. So it's a lower amount. So if you had 40,000, you're looking, I would say, first off, in a second position, I want more because my risk is higher. I'm not a first lien. So I would want maybe 12, 15%, something like that. I would also want to know about the second position, what that looks like. And then I would ask them for more specific comps and then what the plan is when they sell it. Again, I'm not looking at this real closely, so it might be on here, but those were things that I would want to know about. And then also, what other deals have they done before? Is this their first flip ever? Have they done ever other deals in the past? I don't know Aristides, so I don't know, what their experience is, but those are things that if I was looking to lend on this deal that I would want to know about. Craig said using it to work in multiple places and have investments backed by hard assets. Yeah. One of the cool things about private money club or doing private money lending too is you can do it anywhere in the country, right? It's nationwide. You can live in California and not want to invest in California for some reason, or live in Florida and not want to invest in Florida or New York or whatever, right? But you don't have to lend where you live. So you can lend anywhere in the country. So if you feel like Florida is a hot market, which it is, right? Then why not, look for deals in Florida that you can lend on. I mean, it's one of the reasons I love lending to Jack Petrick right now, because he knows Florida's where it is. Florida's where the heat is right now, so to say. So you can lend in places, depending on what the market's doing. If all of a sudden Texas goes crazy, or, maybe California starts going on a tear again, we can invest in those places. So it allows you to develop those relationships and invest in places depending on the market and what's going on. So that's good, Craig. And yeah, and backed by those hard assets, that's what, so what Julie was saying and what Craig is saying, backed by hard assets, and, you're secured to an extent. It's because there's a contract that says if you do not pay me, then that property becomes my property. And as long as it's a good deal, then your money's protected. Because again, like I said before, you can sell it, you can wholesale it, you can rehab it yourself, you can rent it, you can do so many different things to it once you have possession of it to protect your money. So it really is a beautiful thing. Let's see, have formed excellent relationship with trusted borrowers. Yeah, Claire, that's wonderful. I mean, that's what this business is all about, relationships. It's one of the things that from a business standpoint of Private Money Club, it's one of the reasons we do an annual membership as opposed to a monthly membership, because you could easily hop on Private Money Club and, in a month, reach out to 5 or 6 different lenders, develop those relationships, and you have now those lenders or borrowers, those relationships for the rest of your life. And you could do that in 1 month. So we say, listen, you got to at least become a member for a year. And then what we do from a business side, to keep people with us year after year after year, because you will develop relationships in the first year where you probably won't need Private Money Club anymore. But what we do at Private Money Clubs, we try to provide a lot more value. So that's why we do a lot of the coachings and the trainings, and we're going to start doing live events specifically for Private Money Club members once we launch the public version of the site in October. And so we're going to do a lot of things that will benefit being a member. Of course, the price is going to go up then too, but it's going to be a lot of benefits to being a Private Money Club member outside of just the deals. And ultimately, that's what, we see will keep people as, lifetime members and clients with us, as opposed to just kind of joining, building those relationships that you need, and then moving on, at least from the lender side. Now, if you're from the borrower side, it's always good to have access to new lenders. Todd said tenants, toilets, termites, and trash and taxes. Absolutely. All right. So flips suck in general, unless you have at least 50 to 100,000 in capital, 36 months, and love juggling tasks with headaches, especially if you over rehab, then you have to become a motivated seller to minimize your losses, not for beginners. Yeah, there's definitely a lot to flipping. That's for sure. That's why, when I'm looking at lending on a deal, I do want to know the person's experience, and even if they're new to flipping, maybe they've done construction for the last 10 years of their life, or maybe they've been a general contractor, or, whatever the case is. Like, there's other things in life that can give you experience to be a good real estate flipper. You don't have to have done 10, 15, 100 houses to be experienced. Like, you can do other things in life that will make you a good borrower. Right. So keep that in mind too. Just because you're brand new to flipping doesn't mean you're no one's going to lend to you. What are your positives, your pluses, things like that. Tess said, a year ago today, I was in the final day of the final Inner Circle event. My start in a Private Money Club. Oh, cool. That's awesome, Tess. Time flies, huh? Amazing. Yeah, so we got so the next couple of weeks we have a lot coming up. I'll be in South Carolina in 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks we have the Buffalo event. Is anybody coming to that? Is anybody coming to Buffalo for the Money School Essentials? So that's going to be July 30th and 31st. But highly recommend, anybody that's wanting to learn more about private money lending or real estate investing. I mean, Justin Colby's going to be there, Greg Hurling, Devin Burr. We got a stacked house of real estate investors coming. Yeah, I'd love for you guys to join us. It's going to be a really, really, really fun event. Tess, yeah, Spencer will be there talking crypto. Kevin Shortell will be there talking notes. Yeah, it's a loaded event. When you look at, private money lending, we always want to take full advantage of what our money's doing for us, right? So when you lend money on a private money deal, you have to have the money to lend. So where does that money come from, right? So first off, maybe you just have cash sitting in the bank, okay? For whatever reason, you sold something, you cashed out of something, you just save money at the bank, whatever, right? So you have a lot of money just sitting at the bank. Well, money sitting at the bank doesn't do anything. There's no interest paid. There's no safe investments anymore, right? There's no savings accounts, CDs are garbage, all the stuff that we always talk about, right? So what do you do with the money? So if the money's just sitting in cash, then private money lending can be a great thing, because you lend it out. If you need to have access to the cash in the next year, then you do a short-term loan, like one I just showed you with Jared, that's 6 months. Or, if you wanted to do, hey, I just got the money sitting, I don't need it for a few years, then do a longer term deal, like something with Rob Fuller, or like Andrew with the cap fund or something like that, right? Those can be 3, 4, 5-year deals. Steve Lawson has a lot of 5-year deals. Dwight Harrison was just texting me. He does some longer term stuff. So, decide on your time frame of when you need that money, and then, where is that money? So if it's just in a cash account, that's fine. Get the money moving. So that's going to be non-qualified money. What I would recommend you do, though, obviously, would be to put that money into a money multiplier insurance policy, right? So if you're on here right now, you guys probably know what I'm talking about with the money multiplier. These are the specially designed engineered whole life policies that we do that give you the uninterrupted compounding tax-free growth while simultaneously you can use the money. So just to give you an example of that. So instead of my wealth, my cash, my money being stored in a bank checking account or savings account, my money gets housed in a money multiplier insurance policies. So my money's in there compounding and growing for me at all times uninterrupted. But the power of this policy is simultaneously being able to use the money within the policy while it's compounding to do other things with it. So I'm a big fan of private money lending from my policy as well. So just to give you an example, when you borrow money from your policy, they're going to charge you typically 3 to 5%. So you're going to pay that amount for any money that comes out of that policy. So just in this example right here, we take $23,000 out. That $23,000 moves into what's called a segregated account. This is just a holding account that the money's going to stay in for about 24 hours. So it comes from the policy into this checking account. From here, it gets wired to the escrow company or the attorney or the closing company or whoever is borrowing the money. So let's use Jared again as an example, Jared Karlowick. So I take the loan from my policy, goes into the account. I wire the money from the account over to Jared's escrow company for the deal. As soon as that happens, Jared starts paying me monthly interest. Okay. So I start getting a check back every month from Jared that goes into this segregated account. And that would be 12% annual monthly payments, right? So what happens here is I will then start to repay the policy loan, but I'll keep any extra profit that comes out. So I'll keep that 12% minus the 4% that I'm paying for the policy loan. So if I had $100,000 at 12%, that's $1,000 a month. So of that $1,000 a month, about 750 of that is going to be my profit. About 250 of that is going to go back towards this, but that's what that looks like. So I recapture it back into the policy. So I'm no longer paying interest and I continue to make profit on it month after month after month. And then once the deal is done, once Jared's done with the money in about 6 months and the deal closes, then he's going to pay me back the entire amount. And that entire amount then goes right back into my policy. And then I just do it over and over again, boom, and keep that money moving at all times. Now, the reason why I prefer this over just lending from money from cash account is because the money in this policy is making me a lot more money at the same time that I'm doing the exact same thing as before. So I'll give you one more example here. All right. So this was a policy we did for somebody about 6 months ago. It's a 41-year-old female. She put 150,000 in up front the first year, and then was putting $50,000 a year in, as you can see for the first 10 years, essentially. You know, if you're new to Money Multiplier or you're not completely, familiar with what this is and what I'm talking about, join me tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I'm going to do the full Money Multiplier infinite banking presentation. So it'll teach you, 9 minutes exactly what I'm talking about. But just to give you an example for private money lending, so your cash has to go somewhere. Again, like I said, I don't want to put money in a bank because I don't want to make the banks rich and they don't give me any benefit for keeping my money at the bank. They make all the money. So I'm going to put the money in my own bank, this account right here. Okay. So by doing that, let's just say in the 8th year of this policy, I decided to do a private money loan. Okay. And let's just say it was $100,000 private money loan. Well, if I took $100,000 out of my checking or savings account and did a private money loan for 12 months at 12%, I'm going to make $12,000 over that year. Okay. And then I'm going to get my $100,000 back and I made $12,000. That's it. However, because my money's over here sitting in this account, my own bank compounding and growing for me, in the 8th year of this policy, when we do the math, I had a 37% cash on cash return on my money within the policy that year. Okay. Because when I injected $18,000 into it that year, my money grew by $37,000, or my money grew by $66,000, $18,000 in growth, or 37% return. And then when I take that money out of the policy, I had 530,000 available. So I took 100 grand out of it to do the deal. I made 12% on the private money deal. My policy grew by 37%. I paid 5% to use that $100,000 to make the 12%. So I just had a 44% return on my money that year. So instead of just a 12% return, which one do you guys think is better? 12% or 44%? Doing this private money deal and putting our money into this policy, we're literally doing nothing different. So our money has to be housed and warehoused somewhere, held somewhere. So I'm just storing it in my own bank as opposed to a traditional bank like Wells Fargo. And then we want to always keep our money moving to make more money. So I'm doing a private money loan just like I would anyways. So I'm not working any harder. I'm not working any longer. I'm not taking on any more risk. It's just a matter of where my money goes first. Now, given it does take, a few years to start getting these kinds of returns, but if you don't start, it will never happen, right? So you got to start somewhere. So get started, get this happening, and then eventually you'll start getting these crazy returns. So just an example of why we do what we do. Why do we use these whole life policies like this? Why do we do private money lending like this? And then if we're talking about qualified funds like retirement accounts, then that's when we do like the self-directed, because again, we can do all this private money lending in real estate investing with retirement funds, with an IRA, with a 401k, with qualified funds. We just need to move the money to a self-directed custodian that allows us to do that with it. And why would we do private money lending with a retirement account? Well, tax-free or tax-deferred growth. And again, what we started out with earlier, predictable, consistent income, right? And especially with retirement, is that important? Absolutely, right? You always want to know, especially in retirement, you can't just go out there and make more money or get another job or whatever, right? So you have to have that consistent, predictable income and know what's coming in every month, every year, so you know how to live your lifestyle. So it's more important than ever to be able to do that with qualified funds. So again, we're just looking at where is our money and how can we take full advantage of what that money is doing for us at all times. All right, guys. Well, that's all I have for you today. I wanted to keep it a little shorter, just kind of getting back on track. I got a lot of emails. If anybody's been emailing me or anything, I will get back to you today or tomorrow, just playing catch up. Look forward to seeing everybody in Buffalo in a few weeks. So make sure you get your tickets for that. But otherwise, we got a full schedule this week. So some good news. Chris's mom, I know a lot of you guys heard Chris's mom had some stuff going on. She's doing very well, doing very good. So that's great to hear. So if anybody's wondering about that. So we have a full week this week of webinars. So tomorrow, like I said, 6 p.m. Eastern, will be the Money Multiplier presentation. We got all 3 shows on Wednesday. We'll be on Thursday talking precious metals. And if I'm missing anything else, sorry. I know we got a coaching call coming up in a week or two also. So lots going on. If you guys need anything, give me a shout. Hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for being here today. We'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.